Hello, and welcome to this e-tutorial on how to complete the Department of Defense Form 137-5 Dependency Statement Incapacitated Child over 21. The purpose of completing a DD Form 137-5 is to establish the relationship and dependency status of the claimed dependent incapacitated child over the age of 21. The DD Form 137-5 contains 15 sections in which all questions must be answered. If any question does not apply to your situation, please write "Not applicable" or NA in that block. Incomplete answers or unfilled boxes will delay final action on the application. Before you begin filling out the form, please be sure to read and understand all of the instructions and notes provided in the instructions box. Please note, the service member must complete the form in its entirety, sign and date the form, and have it notarized. There are special instructions if the child does not live with the member or if the member is deceased that must be followed. Verification of income is required in this request. Additionally, in this e-tutorial, the term member and sponsor will be used interchangeably. In Block 1A, please place an X on each entitlement that is being requested. Are you requesting Basic Allowance for Housing, BA, or Uniform Service Identification and Privilege Card, USIP card, commonly known as an ID card? The Secondary Dependency Office of your respective branch of service will verify that you meet the eligibility criteria set forth by Congress for the requested entitlements. Next, answer Block 1B. Is this your first application? If yes, mark yes. If this is not your first application, please mark no and provide the date of your last application. In Block 1C, indicate whether the claim was approved or disapproved. The information requested in Section 2, Member Information, relates to the sponsor and includes the member name, Social Security number, rank, and status. Section 2E asks for the member's current residence address and the complete military unit address if the sponsor is on active duty. If the sponsor is now retired, you should write "Not applicable" in Block 2F. The information requested in Blocks 2G, H, and I must be clear and up to date. The Secondary Dependency Office uses the information in these boxes to communicate with the member if more evidence or clarification is required to complete the claim. Please provide a good working telephone number, email address if applicable, and the sponsor's marital status. Section 3, Member's Child, includes information for the claimed incapacitated child. This section is only for the child that is being claimed. The information requested in Section 4, Child's Other Parent, asks you to list the other parent's information. If the other parent is in any branch of service, including the Reserve or National Guard, please complete Blocks 4, C, and D. Section 5, Child's Residence, seeks information regarding the incapacitated child's residence. In Section 5A, select the type and owner status of the residence where the child is living. In Section 5B, be sure to enter the actual name and address of the owner of the residence, whether it's subsidized housing, and the date the child started living there. Errors in Section 5 are usually due to the lack of information provided regarding the child's residence, type of residence, owner of the residence, or the managing company if rented. Section 6. If child is in hospital or institution. This section is only applicable if the claimed dependent child resides in a hospital, assisted living facility, or institution. If the child resides in a facility full-time, you will not fill in Section 8 of this form. If the child resides at the facility part-time and in another location part-time, e.g. parent's residence, then Sections 6 and 8 must both be filled in. Note that the Army requires an official letter from the institution or facility explaining and itemizing the child costs for residing there, and who pays for those expenses, e.g. soldier, government, etc. In Section 7, persons living in household with child, please list all persons who live in the household with the child, including the claimed child. If the person is employed, show average number of hours per week worked. This section cannot be blank even if the claimed child and the parent are the only people living in the household. Remember, please use an NA for fields with no information. Section 8, Household Expenses, page 3. If child only resides in a hospital or institution, put NA in all fields in this section. This section is often the most confusing for applicants. In this section, you will need to list all expenses for the entire household, all persons living in the home, not just the claimed dependent's share for the past 12 months. If the child lives in the residence with the member or a home owned by the member, use fair rental value for the entire dwelling. If the child does not reside in member's household or in a dwelling owned by the member, list actual mortgage, rent, or fair rental value if the dwelling is mortgage-free. If fair rental value, the amount an owner could reasonably expect to receive from a stranger to rent the dwelling, is used, please provide an explanation as to how that was determined in the remarks in section 14. Our office requires the full amount of each expense to be listed for accuracy. For detailed information regarding what type of expense can be claimed in each box of the section, please refer to our webpage, http://www.dfas.mil/military members/secondary dependency/sdc.html. Section 9. Child's Personal Expenses. If the child only resides in a hospital or institution, put NA in all fields of this section. Otherwise, you will note all expenses of the claimed child regardless of who pays for the items listed. These amounts should not include personal items for the sponsor, only the dependent child being claimed. For additional information on what should be included, please see the Expenses Breakdown worksheet for information specific to each expense type. This can be found under the Service-Specific page on the dfas.mil link cited above. An example of what this might look like is provided here. On Section 10, Child's Income, all gross income received by child only, whether taxable or non-taxable, and whether received monthly, quarterly, or yearly, must be listed. This includes any income you receive as custodian or administrator for the child. If any income received during the past 12 months was a lump sum or one-time payment, be sure to state this. Remember, do not list sponsor income on the child income section. Otherwise, an incorrect or negative determination may be based on the information submitted. On Section 11, Child's Employment, is the claimed child currently employed? Or have they been employed during the past 12 months? Please complete the employment information asked on this section. If the child did not hold a job during the past 12 months, please mark No in the checkbox. Section 12. Child school attendance covers any period of schooling since the child attained the age of 21. Please check the appropriate Yes or No box. If the child has attended school, please include the school name and address, whether it was a vocational or degree-seeking program, dates attended, full or part-time status, and major if appropriate. On page 5 of the DD Form 137-5, Section 13, Members' Contribution asks for the sponsor's contributions directly related to the claimed child over the past 12 months. Recertification requests require the full 12 months to be filled in. First requests only require the current month contribution. For service members requesting basic allowance for housing on behalf of the child, the Joint Federal Travel Regulations, Chapter 10, which regulates BAW, requires proof of support to the claimed child. Please provide the proof of support to your child to be able to complete your claim. Acceptable forms of proof of support include AD, discretionary allotments on LES, canceled checks, money order receipts, Western Union transfers made out to claim dependent or claim dependent's custodian, joint checking accounts, cash contributions, or purchase receipts are not acceptable forms of proof of support. Copies of bills paid on behalf of dependent may also be used as long as proof of payment can be provided. Section 14 Remarks. Please use this section to add additional information for any of the sections on this form. Please annotate which response you are adding information for at the beginning of each entry. On Section 15 Signatures, please make sure all signatures are signed and dated in the presence of the notary public. All forms with notary blocks must be notarized. Failure to have the documents notarized will result in return of the application without action. The notary signature relates to the signature of the person who has physical custody of the child. That can be the member or another person. As explained before in the beginning of this e-tutorial, the sponsor must sign and date the DD Form 137-5 on Section 15C unless the sponsor is not available due to the necessity of military service when the forms were completed. In this case, a copy of a general or financial power of attorney is required. Thank you for watching this e-tutorial on how to complete the DD Form 137-5, Dependency Statement Incapacitated Child over age 21. Additional resources, information, and links to the forms are available online by going to http://www.dfas.mil/military members/secondary dependency/sdc.html.